All right. Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and jump into today's agent development training. I've got a number of things that I wanted to go over, and I also wanted to leave a little bit of time if there's questions about anything related to the under 65 open enrollment period, which begins in a few short days. It's kind of crazy, honestly, that it is coming up on us so quickly. Um, and there's some volatility going on as well. If you guys have not been watching the news at all, we're in one of the longest government shutdowns that we've ever been in. And it's primarily due to the fight between the Republicans and the Democrats over the enhanced federal government subsidies. We don't know exactly where this is going to land or how it might impact the open enrollment period. I think at this point, we all need to operate on the reality that it's scheduled to start, at least on the federal exchange, on Saturday, so November 1st. And so I would expect late in the day on Friday, sometime on Friday or early Saturday morning at the latest, that we'll be able to see all of the new plans, all of the new rates, and all of the new subsidies that will be inside of the system. Um, I will say there's a few state exchanges that we've now seen who have said they're going to be delaying the start of open enrollment. I think the state of Pennsylvania is talking about moving it to November 10th. I just came off our TVP call though, and I think the general consensus, at least from our executive leadership team, is that we have to be prepared to go on Saturday. And if Congress does something in the next 3 days that disrupts that, we'll pivot accordingly. I think there's probably a larger chance of the open enrollment season being extended if there's some sort of change with Congress. But all of that is to be determined. I've had a couple of agents say, with this volatility, does it make sense to maybe hold off on meeting with people or just wait a little bit? I'll tell you, I'm not embracing that strategy because I just have too much to do and we have too much to do. So we're going to start meeting with people right away. We're going to start updating their information, getting their ACA consent forms, gathering all of their pertinent information to be able to submit their application for them. And if for some reason things are delayed and we need to talk to them again a little bit into the open enrollment season to make adjustments or react to government realities, we'll do that. But I still feel like we want to touch people and at least bring them up to speed and educate them and gather information and get ready. I will tell you, this is not the first time that we've had a very chaotic start to the open enrollment period. The first several years, we couldn't even submit applications for weeks. And we were meeting with clients and doing the analysis and making recommendations and then stacking that information up so that we could submit the applications when the system actually started working. So I don't think it's going to be nearly as crazy and chaotic as it was in those early years of the ACA. But I could see some things and some chaos and some volatility in all this. Um, I think it's also worth mentioning that most of the insurance companies are now sending out their annual letters to their clients, and every carrier has to send out a letter to existing clients, trying to tell them what's happening for the next year. There's several problems with these letters, though. They're usually wildly inaccurate because the government is forcing them to send these letters before final subsidies are determined in any geography. And so usually what happens with these letters is the insurance company sends out the letter with the increased premium, but utilizing the old like 2025 government subsidy, which we know probably will not be accurate for most people next year. And so that just creates a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos. I think that, for those of us who have existing clients, if they call in a panic, we just need to be the calm in the storm, calm them down, get an appointment scheduled for the first week or two in November, and let them know that we're going to reevaluate and recalibrate and recalculate everything for them. Let them know that those letters are not accurate because it's using 2026 plan premiums or rates, but 2025 subsidies. So it will be different once we recalculate them. Um, so that's kind of something to understand as well. Um, I do think that all of you should plan on taking some time on Saturday at some point to just pour through, run some scenarios in your area, plug your own family in, have a John and Mary Doe, whatever it is, and start plugging and playing and looking at the plans that are available. And because I do think a lot of these plans are going to be changing for next year. Some of the carriers are skinnying down the amount of plans that they're actually offering. I know personally I have a large block of business with Am Better, And Ambetter has now announced that they are getting rid of all of their on exchange, so anything done through the marketplace, healthcare.gov, but all of their bronze plans for next year. And they're going to be crosswalking members into the next best plan, which is most likely going to be a silver plan, which also adds to the chaotic volatility here because not only in the state of Indiana are we seeing a 26% rate increase on existing plans, but if somebody gets then crosswalked from a bronze into a silver plan is usually going to be more expensive than a bronze plan. So it's just going to exacerbate, that rate going up. So we are fully expecting that we're going to have to make, a lot of adjustments to our existing clients. For those of you that are new, opportunity. Like, I don't want to understate that because when there's chaos and there's volatility like this, the phones are going to be blowing up, leads are going to be hot, live transfers are going to be flowing. I would say if you do not yet have your live transfers set up, you need to get them set up and you need to get them turned on and you need to start taking some calls here. I think Saturday and Sunday and Monday could be a crazy amount of live transfers coming in. If you have not yet really jumped into live transfers, I would direct you to the Jessup Agency or yeah, the Jessup Territory YouTube channel. I'll send that out again. Make a note on that because we have several trainings that we've done over the last couple of months, specifically a lot around live transfers. And if you're planning to take live transfers and you're not fully versed on that right now, I think you should go back and watch some of those trainings and go back through even some of the emails that I sent earlier in the year with some of the scripting and things that are working for some of the top live transfer agents across the country. For those of you that are new, I mean, you could have one hell of an A or OEP season just on live transfers if you're willing to take the calls and do the work. I think I was talking to Daniel Smith yesterday, who's probably the top sales team in the country taking live transfers, and he said they're closing right now close to 30% of live transfers that are coming in. So 30% closing ratio in any lead is pretty insanely good. So, but you also got to remember in all that, if you're closing even 20%, you're not closing 8 out of 10 in the moment. So you got to be okay with that. You can't let that be turn into, head trash, right? You got to focus on what you can control and realize that closing 2 out of 10 is actually very good and very profitable. So I just wanted to mention that. I will also mention that as you're taking branded leads, you do have the ability to go negative in your Lead Connect account. So many agents during the OEP season and AEP season, as they're taking live transfers, they will go negative. I think you can go negative up to $3,000. Um, and I think there's no like interest on it or anything like that. But as you begin to make sales then, and those commissions over the next couple of months begin to come in, that will, whatever you've allocated in to go into your Lead Connect will then bring that balance back positive over time as you make sales. So I wouldn't be scared of going negative if I was in any of your shoes on Lead Connect at this point. I think that's a way to continue to take leads and continue to drive revenue. That revenue then will come in a little bit later and clean up any negative balance that you have there. I'd also encourage you, if you are heavily invested in live transfers, you want to make sure that you've got your Lead Connect contribution on your profile on the Resource Center set up appropriately. I would recommend a bare minimum of 20% to 2,000, and you can even bump that up a little bit if you'd like. I don't think you need to go more than 2,000, but you can go a higher percentage, and that will help then fund the leads that you're going to be taking. In addition to all the the company contributions, the lead matching, the lead bonuses, and the subsidies that happen right off the top. These leads cost, I showed you last week, about $160 to $170 a piece to generate, and we're getting them for less than $40. If you're in your first 6 months, you're getting a 50% rebate off of that. And then you also have, all of the contributions that are coming in from lead bonuses and matching on anything that you contribute. So you can really manage this cost down to a very minuscule cost and make it very, very profitable if you pull all the right levers and do that right. So check out the YouTube channel and go back to those. We have a specific playlist on there that is specific to the live transfers, and I certainly think that's worth checking out a little bit. I'm going to share my screen here because I want to share a couple of things just to give you guys some ideas of what we're doing as a territory team, specifically in the over 65 Medicare space. I'm very, very, very extremely proud of what we're doing collectively in the Medicare space right now. And these numbers will kind of demonstrate that. So you guys can see my screen okay, Sandra? Okay, I see you nodding. So good. So these are some screenshots that I pulled from the TVP call this morning. And for those of you who may not know, our territory is AM Agency Manager South Bend. They don't call me Silas Jessup, they call me AM South Bend. So you can see this is our Medicare Advantage sales year over year, just for the first week of the annual enrollment period. Last year, after the first week, we'd written about 1,077. This year, we're at 1,582, which is 505 more, which is 47% change over last year, which is incredible. You can see that we're number two in the country as far as growth year over year, only second to Alex Wertentile in Maryland, but he's working off of a much smaller amount than what we are. And then corporately, they had given us some numbers and some goals that we wanted to hit that were modest growth over last year. So you guys can see we're running 36, so we're 47% ahead of where we actually were last year and 36% ahead of um, what our goal was. So really great job there. Some incredible things are happening. If any of you are involved in the Medicare side of business, you should be very proud of what we're doing. I also wanted to look at our SUPs and life year over year because this is also a pretty incredible story to be told. I got to give a kudos and a thanks to Kevin McIntyre, especially. He really helped, I think, put this in the spotlight, how to cross sell in the senior market. And, I think as we move into the OEP for the under 65 market, we want to keep it rolling. I would say in the under 65 space, cross selling probably becomes even more important than in the Medicare space because all of these ACA plans have narrower networks of doctors and hospitals with no coverage out of network unless it's an emergency situation. And they all have much higher deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums. I think the out-of-pocket maximum on most plans for 2026 is going to be over $10,000 per person per year. And the reality is most Americans can't come up with $1,000, let alone $10,000 to cover their deductible and their out-of-pocket maximum if something happens. And so I'm just going to encourage you guys. We want to keep this trend rolling. Right now, our AM South Bend, we're up 135% for the first, I don't know, week of the open enrollment season. Or actually, it's the first 10 days that they measured here. So it's really incredible to see us up 135%. Again, second only to Alex Wertentile in Maryland and his team, but obviously they are working off of a much smaller amount there as well. So congratulations and kudos to everybody on what we're doing there. I also thought it'd be interesting just to share with you guys what this is this is nationwide what we are doing as a company by carrier. So it looks like Humana and Devoted Health are probably the two biggest winners right now. If you start looking at this, Humana is up about 113% number of applications that we've submitted this year versus last year. Aetna is about even. United Healthcare is down a little bit, to be expected. Devoted Health is through the roof. I will tell you that I got a note from Devoted Health executive leadership yesterday, and they said that our territory is over 500 applications already submitted for Devoted Health this year. So it's about a quarter of what the entire company has submitted to Devoted Health. So really great work there. Looks like Priority Health in Michigan, many of you working in Michigan, is up 69%. Cigna's down a little bit. HAP is up a little bit. Medical Mutual is down. And then Centene, which is WellCare, is up a little bit as well. Some of these other carriers we don't really work with. Looks like Anthem's down pretty significantly, to be expected there as well. So I wanted to just show you guys some of those numbers because while not all of you are involved in Medicare, I still want you to understand the size, the magnitude, the power of the team that you're associated with. We're doing some incredible things as a very small team. Our footprint is basically half of two states. I know a few of you are, so we have some agents in Florida and Washington and some other areas, but most of our agents reside in, central to northern Indiana or western Michigan. And so we technically have half of two states. And to be crushing the annual enrollment season like we are, kudos, great job. Thank you to everybody who's contributed to that so far. I also wanted to remind you guys, if you have not yet had an opportunity to listen in on Justin Wired doing his live transfer calls, I think you should. Allison, I know you've been attending a bunch of those. I know, and Justin, you're on here, so thanks for being on here. I know you've got two sessions scheduled this week. One is for Wednesday from 4 to 6, which is a little bit more during mainstream hours. And then you're doing Thursday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., which is one of the first morning sessions that we've had in a while. So, Justin, I just wanted to ask, I know these sessions have been going well from your perspective. I know you've had some agents who have engaged, and do you have any other commentary or thoughts around how these sessions have been going, and the agents that have engaged, what they've actually been able to learn, what you guys have been chatting about?
Yeah, a lot of what we talk about is just how to find resources when you're on a call to be able to, find those resources to make the determination on the best plan. And the thing, understanding the subsidies and employer coverage. There's so many different things that come up. So just working those resources. And I think maybe, asking, Trevor and Kaleo and, Stacy and Allison, I guess, what have they gotten out of it? Um, how's it helped them? Because, there's a lot of time between the calls. So there's a lot of time where we have to talk and answer those questions and even do some role playing and stuff like that.
So anybody who's been joining the calls, I'd love to hear from you. Trevor, I'll pick on you. But how have the calls been going? Have you learned a lot? Do you have anything to maybe tell agents who haven't been attending?
Yeah, I have definitely learned a lot. I started going, it's been probably a month now. So before I even started taking any calls, just like the little things that I had no idea about. Um, just answering the phone, what to say. And then yeah, I did a role play call with Justin that was really beneficial. He threw a little couple curveballs at me, but yeah, it's been a great experience going in there, and I've definitely learned a lot.
I don't think there's better training than live training when somebody's doing the work and doing it well. What about you, Allison? I know you've been on a bunch of them. Have you do you have anything else to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I think just like being prepared for any question to come up because a lot of different questions come up. So being able to just kind of roll with the punches, and even if it's not somebody looking directly for insurance, like Justin always offers to help them in any way he can, like he'll find a number for them. And then that is memorable to people. So just being helpful, even when it's not someone looking for, like, you're not going to make a sale right then. So.
He
Yeah, it's been
also
really, really helpful.
He has a great live transfer script that I asked him to send me with a bunch of different like detours and guidelines of what to do in certain situations that I've been using that's been really helpful as well.
Mhm.
Well, for those of you that don't know, before Justin came to Health Markets, like he did this like live, and it wasn't even live transfers. It was just leads that you were calling, right, Justin? And you were making literally hundreds of phone dials a day to find a couple of people that were in a position that they could and would chat with you. And so you had like experience at this type of structure more so than anybody else on the team. And that's why I kind of asked you, even though you're still relatively new, to jump in and do some of these trainings. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think, being a new agent, just understanding how to, um, connect, build that rapport and qualify the lead quickly to determine, is this somebody I can help today, or is this somebody I'm not going to be able to help, for another couple of months.
Well, I'd really encourage you guys to jump on these sessions, especially as you're getting ready for the open enrollment period. I'll tell you one thing that gives me anxiety around all of you that are new is that you have a window here of about 6 weeks from November 1st to December 15th to really show up and make an impact and do a large land grab in a short period of time. My biggest fear is that you're going to get to the day after Thanksgiving or the Monday after Thanksgiving, and you're going to be like, oh crap, I really haven't done a whole lot yet, or I haven't taken dozens of calls weekly, or I don't have a lot of sales under my belt at this point. And that's going to be on the tail end of the season. So I just don't want you to miss this opportunity because this is an opportunity to catapult yourself, both on the knowledge and the process and the transaction, but also from an income perspective. I mean, you have the ability not only to build this revenue stream on the ACA, but also cross-sell into a lot of the golden rule products and create an enormous amount of revenue and income over the next 6 weeks or so. Now, to keep in mind, we have until December 15th to get everybody enrolled for a January 1st effective date. And then we have from 12/15 to 1/15 in most states, at least in the federal states, to sign people up for a 2/1 effective date. Those dates could change or move depending on what the government does or doesn't do, but that's kind of what we're operating under right now. So we've got a dead sprint here for the next 6 weeks. And I would just encourage you, if you're new, if this is what you've been getting ready for and prepping for, and you don't have a lot of sales under your belt and you're not tier 2 yet, like this is your opportunity starting Saturday. And if you just put your head down and go to work and grind and take calls and execute transactions, the way you're going to get good at this is by doing the work. There's no other way. All of you are very well trained. You may not be a complete subject matter expert yet, but you got to remember the people that are calling, they're calling in for help. They don't know where to begin. And oftentimes just getting involved and answering questions, you can be a tremendous blessing to somebody who knows nothing and also gain them as a new client, right? So just don't miss this, guys. Especially those of you who will really want this to be your career and you're not yet tier 2 status yet. Please don't let these next 4 to 6 weeks pass you by. I have a good friend of mine who came into the business about a year and a half ago, and she was juggling real estate in this. And ultimately, real estate is taken back off for her. So she's decided to sideline the insurance gig and focus on her real estate business. But last year, she was really psyched up and prepping for this. And then all of a sudden, it all happened. And I talked to her in late November, and she's like, Silas, I just feel like it all ran by me and I didn't do anything. I never jumped on the train. And now here I am 3-4 weeks into the selling season, and I haven't done much and I'm not prepared, and it just didn't come together for her. And I just was very sad for her, like in that moment, that she didn't just like jump off the platform, get on the train and start doing the work, right? You guys are you were all ready to do it. It's just you got to go do it. So if I could walk around and push you all into the deep end of the pool, I would do that right now. I have that visual of just like walking past people and pushing them into the pool and saying, figure this out, go swim. Like you will figure it out if you start talking to people, and you'll screw it up. The way you get good at making or taking live transfers or selling insurance is to do it poorly a number of times, right? You'll learn something each time and you'll get better and you'll get better and you'll get better. But executing transactions is the key here. So I just don't want to underestimate that and understate how important it is for you to jump into the pool on Saturday and go to work, okay? And we're here to help you in whatever ways we can. If you run into a situation that's complex, Sandra, myself, your sales leaders, Steve Cavajola, I know Justin does a lot of answering of questions, and I'm thankful to him for that too. So you do have resources around you, other agents, that you've been through training with. I think that's one thing we do have here is a culture of helping each other. So yeah. So I wanted to touch on that. One other thing I just want to touch on regarding VanillaSoft, and hopefully you guys are becoming very well versed with VanillaSoft, but I found out something this morning that I wasn't aware of. And so there is the ability, so if you do an application through Quote Connect, Health Sherpa, or ConnectSure, if you actually execute the application through one of our quoting and enrollment platforms, that information will be automatically ported back into VanillaSoft and saved on your client profile, okay? There are a few situations, though, where we are not able to or don't execute an application through those quoting and enrollment platforms. A couple of examples might be if a platform is down and you're going direct to the insurance company to enroll a member through the insurance company's website. All the insurance companies have their own enrollment platforms and tools. You can do that if you want. But when you do that outside of our systems, it's not automatically logged back into VanillaSoft as a sale. And you have to manually update that and manually put that information in. Until today, I didn't think that you could manually enter applications, but I found out today that you actually can do that. When you actually come in here and you click on, this is kind of the main screen. If you come down here, there's an applications tab. It's like behind this box right here, but it's right in here. And if you click on that applications tab, right here, you see this blue add entry with a plus mark. That allows you to manually add an application into that contact in VanillaSoft. And that's really important to do because a couple of things happen. if you didn't enroll someone through our platform and you did it through an outside platform, or you went directly to healthcare.gov and did it, and didn't do it through Health Sherpa, that would be another reason you'd need to manually enter that. But when you manually enter this, a couple of things happen. First of all, it helps with commission reconciliation because many times we don't know, Health Markets doesn't know exactly who the agent is. If you've notated it in here, it just makes sure that you get paid accurately on everything. The other thing that it does is it tracks things appropriately so that we know how many sales we've actually made. Some of that data I showed you early in the call today, it's important to go back and look at that, and understand how, how we're doing as a team and an organization. So I would just ask you, if you manually enroll somebody outside of ConnectSure, Health Sherpa, or Quote Connect into a product, come in here and add an entry under their applications, and then you're going to fill in as much. This is the screen that pops up, and you're going to fill in as much information as you can. Some of this information you're not going to have, but I would fill in as much as you actually can, because that's then saved to that client profile, and you can go back and look at that later on. Now, eventually what's going to happen is that the insurance carrier is going to effectuate that policy. It's going to go active, and they're going to pay a commission to Health Markets and let Health Markets know that it's now an active policy. What then will happen is Health Markets will then load that active policy into the policy tab. There's an application tab and a policy tab on every contact in VanillaSoft. And so the policy will come in at a later date once Health Markets gets confirmation that it's been paid and effectuated and it's all in force and they're paying commissions on it. So there's kind of two pieces: the application, which is us telling the system and telling Health Markets that, hey, we sold something here and this is what we sold. And then the policy will come in later. And so usually, over time, like 90 days from now, you should be able to see an application in the system and an active policy in the system, right? So just wanted to update you guys on that, because that is something uniquely different from how I thought it worked. And I wasn't even aware that we had the ability to manually add applications into the system. So any questions on that before we move on? All right. So one thing that I want to do is I walked my team through something that I put together yesterday. And I'll tell you, this may not be super applicable for everybody, because many of you are one man or one woman shops at this point. You don't have staff helping you. You don't have sub-agents and assistants. But I wanted to walk through kind of the progression that I put together for my team, specific to the re-enrollments that we're doing. And I think I'll send this out to all of you so you can kind of have it, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to put together a bit of a flow chart. I specifically have Nikki and Sherry on my team, who are both on the call here, who are going to be doing the initial consultations with all of my existing clients. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be meeting with each one of these clients. We've already sent out an email with a link. Nikki and Sherry, do you guys know how many appointments you each have scheduled with clients that have scheduled on your account, on your scheduling links so far?
I had 33 yesterday, but I didn't check today.
Okay. And Sherry said no, but she's probably got a couple dozen anyway as well. So wow, what's going on in Sam Letcher's office there? That's a lot of dudes peering over your shoulder right now. You okay? Are they holding you hostage, Sam? It looks kind of nefarious. I don't know about you guys, but yeah. So I wanted to just share some of the scripting that I'm using and some of the progression that I'm using. I think that at its core, most of our clients, most people that we work with, will probably need to be in an ACA plan or a marketplace plan for two reasons. Number one, that's the only place that they can go and have pre-existing conditions covered. And number two, most people are still going to qualify for government subsidies regardless of what Congress does. So those two reasons alone usually pull most people into an ACA compliant marketplace plan, right? But there are going to be people who simply say, I can't afford that. Whatever that is, whatever that final number is, their premium minus the government subsidies that they're eligible for. And so I want to talk through kind of what the progression is, depending on what state, and I'm going to focus on Indiana and Michigan here, kind of the progression as I would see it of where I would want to go product wise if an ACA plan is not appropriate for them, or they can't afford it. I mean, that's really the thing that would drive us away from an ACA plan. And so what I did is I put together just some talking points as I was kind of building this out for my team. And so I'm just going to walk through these with you guys, and then I'm happy to share them, and you can take what you want from it and leave anything you don't want. So So this is what I'd put together is our OEP re-enrollment talking points for 2026. Now, keep in mind, this is Nikki and Sherry who are going to be speaking directly with clients of mine that are current clients of mine. And I want to maintain the agent of record on them. So I'm asking them to do the consultation, gather the information, kind of help decipher what that client wants to do. And then they're going to pass it back to me so that I can finalize the enrollment in Health Sherpa for each one of these members and maintain the agent of record on them. So that's kind of our game plan. So this is kind of the scripting that I put together. So first, Silas, wanted to make sure that I thank you for allowing us to continue to help you. This open enrollment period will be volatile, and here's why. Number one, many states have approved rate increases on all plans for 2026. In Indiana, that increase averages 26%. Number two, the enhanced federal subsidies that were passed into law in 2021 and extended in 2022 are scheduled to end on 12/31/25 unless Congress takes action. And then number three, some carriers are pulling out of states while other carriers are canceling some plans for 2026. So this is creating volatility this year like we haven't seen in many years. Many clients will need to keep their ACA or marketplace plan for two reasons. Number one, the marketplace is the only place you can go and receive coverage for pre-existing conditions in the individual market. And number two, most people will still qualify for federal government subsidies to help offset the cost. If you have no pre-existing conditions and or you don't qualify for federal government subsidy, we may be able to look at other private coverage options for you. Now, what I'm thinking there is short-term insurance with a Health Protector Guard or the Med Mutual Protect product with a Health Protector Guard. So some combination there is what I'm thinking. I kind of view those as creative alternatives, right? So insurance deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums are continuing to rise each year. This year, many plans will have an out-of-pocket maximum that will exceed $10,000 for an individual. Silas asked me to look at your supplemental insurance products and review what you have. Supplemental insurance is designed to pay you if you have a major illness, a major accident, or a hospitalization. It helps to fill the gaps in your insurance and cover other indirect costs like lost income, travel for care, out-of-network costs, and experimental treatments. A couple of thoughts that I have, and I may not go into this in here, but I just want to give you some context. When we think about these indirect costs, obviously lost income is a big one for the under 65 market because most people's income is tied to their ability to work. And if they're not able to work, their income stops or drops. Travel for care. Many people do seek, when they get really sick, they seek care outside of their home area, and travel is very expensive. I experienced this earlier this year. My mother had a health issue that required her to seek treatment daily in Indianapolis. She lives in northern Indiana. So she was literally living in Indianapolis for about 6 or 7 weeks because she needed daily treatments down there. The cost of that can just be exorbitant, especially if someone doesn't have friends or family to stay with in those types of situations. Out-of-network costs. So most of the Affordable Care Act or the marketplace plans are limited network HMOs with no coverage out of network unless it's an emergency situation. Most of these plans do not allow you to seek care outside of your home state. And so I feel that supplemental insurance, whether it's critical illness or major accident policies or hospital indemnity products, they can pay the consumer a bucket of cash and give them cash to expand that network. Because if they want to go to an out-of-network provider and they have a bucket of cash, they can go do things they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So it's also a defensive, kind of proactive approach to widening their network and giving them cash in those terrible situations. And then experimental treatments, which are typically not covered. So I've kind of inserted this in the center right at the beginning to make sure to lay the groundwork for the fact that health insurance is going to be the core of what we're going to do, and then we're going to fill the gaps with supplemental insurance. We'll review what you have and make some other recommendations. So from there, I've asked my team to pivot into this. Silas asked me to review and update your information, walk through your options for 2026. Good, I'm reading this now, right? And help you to make a selection on what plan you want to enroll in. Once we do that, Silas will send you an ACA consent form to sign electronically. This form will give him permission to update your application and finalize your enrollment for 2026. Do you have any questions? And then from there, we're just moving into a very simple fact finding. Now, obviously, if you're working with a brand new client, this fact finding process needs to be a little bit more robust. But for most of these clients that we're working with, it's existing clients that we have a lot of the information. So one thing that we are going to leverage this year is what's called their Health Sherpa intake form. I don't know if you guys have played around in Health Sherpa and looked at this yet. If you haven't, I would recommend that you go in and create a profile in Health Sherpa for yourself and send yourself that intake form. It's kind of like the retire flow for Medicare, but what that intake form does is you can send it to the client and they fill out basic information that you need, including meds, doctors, updated contact information, and then the income, their adjusted gross income would be on there. So that's the first thing we want to check is, did they give us this information already and is it already loaded into Health Sherpa? And I think you guys need to figure out how to leverage that intake form because that's going to allow you to gather a lot of information before you actually meet with the consumer. So I think our strategy is going to be once they schedule an appointment, we're going to then send them the intake form and ask them to fill it out. We have a very basic form for each client that we call our information gathering sheet. So this is just their basic information. It's kind of the front page of the fact finder. If you are updating anything there, you got to remember you want to update it on your fact finder tool or your information gathering sheet and in your CRM, right? So if somebody changed an address, they changed a phone number, an email address, you want to make sure you get it updated in all the different systems. Confirm that they do not have access to group insurance through an employer. This is vitally important because people's situations do change. And if they have access to group insurance through an employer, in most situations, that's where they should be. And in most situations, they're not going to be eligible for a government subsidy. Now, that being said, there are some scenarios where someone could have access to group insurance through an employer, but it's just so stinking expensive that they qualify for what's called the family glitch, where they can still qualify for government subsidies. There's a calculation you have to work your way through. And so if somebody does explain that it's just too expensive to be covered through work, we need to gather that information and understand what the lowest cost group insurance option is for them so we can run the calculations to see if they might be eligible for a government subsidy. But I will say in most situations, if someone has access to group insurance through an employer, that's probably where they should be. And I'll tell clients that flat out. When you have access to group insurance through an employer platform, number one, that employer is helping pay at least some of the cost. Number two, it's probably a little bit better coverage than an individual plan because it's probably a nationwide PPO product with a very broad network of doctors and hospitals, and it most likely will have lower deductibles and out-of-pockets than what a marketplace plan might have. And then number three, if they have ability to get on a group insurance plan, that also gives them the ability to pay their portion of the premium through a payroll deduction on a pre-tax basis. So they're able to pay whatever their portion of the premium is with pre-taxed money, where in most situations, if somebody's buying an individual Obamacare or ACA plan, they're paying for that with post-tax dollars. So those are kind of the three things that I use if somebody says, oh yeah, I've got access to group insurance, but we just didn't know if it was our best option. I'm like, usually it is because your employer's helping pay the cost. It's usually better coverage from a network and a coverage perspective, and you're able to pay your premiums with pre-tax dollars. Now, there are a few scenarios where that might not be true, but I'll tell you the majority of the time that's true. Then we want to ask them about health concerns and pre-existing conditions. What health issues do you have going on? Even though they're clients, there may have been things that have come up that we don't know about, so we want to gather that. And then last but not least, I guess this isn't last, but are you funding a health savings account? Many of my clients have coached them and trained them to fund health savings accounts, and they're putting money aside tax-free to pay future medical bills. Well, I want to know that up front because if they are funding a health savings account, we want to work to keep them in an HSA approved policy for 2026 so they can continue to make those contributions. The next thing is to verify their projected 2026 adjusted gross income and number of family members on the tax return for 2026. We're going to need each family member, the name of the employer, and the amount of income that they're going to report there. When I put information in to Health Sherpa or healthcare.gov, I don't do it monthly. What I do is I calculate it all annually for each line of income. So if the husband works at some shipping company and he makes $43,000 a year, that's what I'm going to input. If the wife has a job and she makes $23,000 a year, I'm going to put that in on the annual amount. And then we got to think about other things too. If they have retirement income, if they have a pension, if they have Social Security income, there are other types of income that they could have that would stack up and calculate into this adjusted gross income. So we need to identify who is the income coming to in the family, who is the employer or where is it coming from, and what is the annual amount. We need to gather that information so that we can properly input that into the application. So, and then, so I kind of have the family member, name of employer, and amount of adjusted gross income, and then obtain other income sources like retirement income, Social Security, pensions, etc. And then last but not least, we're going to obtain their doctor information and current medications. Now, hopefully we gathered that information in their Health Sherpa intake form, but if we didn't, we're going to do it here. From there, we're going to then go into Health Sherpa or Quote Connect and calculate their subsidy for 2026 and tell them what it is. I have no problem telling somebody what their subsidy is up front. Well, it looks like based on your projected adjusted gross income of 78,000 and your family of 4, you're going to get $468 a month of government subsidy to help offset the cost of your insurance. If it's an existing client, we may comment on whether that's more or less than what they received in the previous year. We're going to then calculate the cost of the ACA plans available and sort the plans from least expensive to most expensive. So whatever area they're in, I like to sort by least expensive to most expensive and tell them, okay, the cheapest plan is going to be $319 a month after your government subsidy. The most expensive plan is going to be $3,200 a month after government subsidy. I think it's important to give them both ends of that spectrum for context so that they understand this is a wide range. And, I think it makes them more comfortable with wherever they settle being a good number if they know what the range of potential, most or least expensive to most expensive is. Here in Indiana, we have 3 carriers, and I do like to take some time to explain how networks work. So Better has the broadest network. It's what's called an EPO, an exclusive provider organization. What that means is that Better is the only carrier in Indiana and I believe in Michigan that will allow a consumer to see in-network providers outside of the state that they live in. So Better is our broadest network here in Indiana. CareSource has the middle-sized network and they're an HMO. Now, if you see HMO anywhere, what that means is they have to be in network and they have to be in state to receive care unless it's an emergency situation. An emergency situation outside of the network and outside of the state is always a covered expense, but it's not a fun process to work through. And then Anthem has the narrowest network, which is an HMO here in Indiana. There is no coverage out of network on any of these plans unless it's an emergency. So how important is the size of the network to you? So if we're talking to a client, I have a lot of clients who have a home in Indiana and a home in Florida, and they're on Better because of that, because Better is the only plan that will give them in-network non-emergency access in Indiana and in Florida. So that if that's really important to them, then we're going to need to stay with Better, right? So we want to understand that. So to keep the plan that you're being crosswalked into for 2026, your monthly cost would be X. This plan does have a $8,000 deductible and a $10,600 out-of-pocket maximum per person with a maximum of 2 for the family. I'll tell you, all of these ACA plans work this way. It's a per person deductible and a per person out-of-pocket maximum, but with a maximum of 2 for a family in a bad year. So you'll see that in the quoting tools. If you got a family of 5, you don't owe a deductible or out-of-pocket maximum for every one of the 5. It's only for the first 2, and then it's 100% coverage after that. So is that monthly premium acceptable, or do we need to look at other options? If they say, yeah, we can do that this year, okay, boom, we're going to move forward with them and execute the enrollment. And we need to talk about supplemental and stuff, but we're locking in exactly which ACA plan. If the cheapest ACA plan is too expensive, then we need to look at alternative options. Any alternative option that we look at will not cover pre-existing conditions. You will need to qualify based on your current health to be approved. They will not cover preventative services in most situations, and they're not HSA approved. And again, what I'm thinking about here is short-term insurance and the Med Mutual Protect and the Health Protector Guard and supplemental insurance filling the gaps. I'm trying to figure out some alternatives there. So the first creative alternative is short-term insurance. Now, if you're in Indiana or selling in Indiana, you can do a 12-month or a 36-month, we call it a tri-term plan with the carriers here. If you're in Michigan, the most you can do is 6 months. I would say our 2 primary carriers here are Allstate or UH1. They do have to qualify to be approved. It doesn't cover pre-existing conditions, does not cover preventative services, and it's not HSA approved. So we want to understand or make sure the client understands those things. So with Allstate, I've actually got the link here. We would quote the enhanced PPO with 100% coverage on the Cigna network. And I would say if you're in Michigan, same thing if you're quoting Allstate. Deductible options are 2,500, 5,000, and 10,000, and then it's 100% coverage after that. In Indiana, you can do a 36-month rate lock with Allstate, which is kind of a nice option where it's steady. That rate is consistent for the next 3 years. One of the downsides to Allstate is that they only have a discount plan for prescriptions. So if they get put on an expensive medication, that is not going towards their deductible or out of pocket. It's handled separately as just a discount. So that's probably one of the reasons why the Allstate plans are less expensive than the United Healthcare plans because of how it covers prescriptions. I think anytime we're talking about a short-term plan, we need to couple it with the Health Protector Guard to cover wellness, doctor's visits, prescriptions, and help with the deductible. You can kind of refer to this as a medical reimbursement plan. I also think we need to quote a minimum of 10,000 critical guard and 10,000 accident-wise and dental and vision alongside any of these plans. So as I kind of think about it, the medical is going to, or the short-term insurance is going to be kind of the base medical, but then we're going to tuck the Health Protector Guard and the other supplemental products underneath it to expand their coverage and to cover some of the things that aren't necessarily covered well by these short-term plans. Help pay the deductibles, lost income, travel for care, experimental treatments, all those other, indirect costs. So we could build a really, really great plan like that. There's also United Health One. You can quote them through Quote Connect or through the uh1.com/broker website. And they have, the tri-term plan, which I typically quote the Plan 100 Max. They have deductibles of 5,000, 7,500, 10,000, or 12,500. Or we can do the short-term medical plus elite for 12 months, and you have various deductible options there. No matter what I'm quoting in the short-term world, I gravitate towards the plan that are deductible and then 100% coverage. There's other plans out there with like 80/20 coverage and 70/30 coverage and a lot of other working parts, but it becomes very complex, convoluted, and confusing for clients if you start talking about those other plans. So I only recommend plans that are choose your deductible, it's 100% coverage after that. Now let's talk about how we cover the things up to that deductible, because most of these deductibles are pretty high deductibles. And that's where we tuck in the supplemental insurance. On UH1 in Indiana, you can do the 12 or 36 months, but no rate lock on their tri-term. I will say the prescription coverage under UH1 is better because those prescriptions go towards the deductible and the out-of-pocket maximum. So if somebody gets put on a really expensive medication, they've got better coverage under UH1 than they do under Allstate. Now, the other thing you got to remember about these plans, though, is that when somebody's coming onto these plans, these people are healthy, right? They're not on a bunch of medications. So we're not covering pre-existing conditions. So any medications they're on are not going to be covered on this plan. So really, we're buying this plan forward thinking, saying, okay, the next 12 months or 6 months, 12 months, 36 months, do we want to have robust prescription drug coverage or not? And then again, you can couple it with the HPG to cover the wellness, doctor's visits, prescriptions, and deductibles, the critical guard, the accident-wise, and the vision and dental. So this is kind of the first option. I want to show you very quickly. I've got some time here. I want to show you very quickly what this looks like. When you come into quote United Healthcare, you can actually see you've got a quote and enroll button here that you can click on. And it's a very simple process to get a quote. You just got to get logged in. And then you're going to manually enter your information into their quoting engine. So we'll just say we're going for January 1st effective date, 46540. I'm just going to use mine, 11/10/1976. I'm a male. We're not going to add any spouse or dependents or anything. I don't use tobacco. I've got to come down here to the short-term plans. There's a couple of questions here. Have I had major medical coverage, including short-term, for at least 9 months within the last 12? The answer is yes. My height and weight, I'm 5'11", 210. I'm not rewriting an existing Allstate plan. And then I'll come to the standard rates. There are, if there is this. So do I own a motorcycle? No. Have you had any DUIs or DWIs? No. Have I had been prescribed or recommended for high blood pressure, cholesterol, anxiety, or depression? If I can say no to that, I'm actually on blood pressure and cholesterol medication, so I would have to say yes, but I can view the preferred rates then. And then when I come in here, I have the option of kind of figuring out what I want to do. I would typically come in here if I'm quoting in Indiana, and I would probably look at the 36-month rate lock. And what it does is it brings up the plans here. So this, and I'm going to look at the ones that have 100% coverage. So this is probably never a plan that I would never sell because it's such a low deductible, but it'd be $559. The 5,000 with 100% coverage is $324, and the 10,000 with 100% coverage is $217. This is the plan that probably I would sell the majority of the time. And then tuck a critical guard 10,000, an accident wise 10,000, and a health protector guard, and maybe vision and dental under it. You can download the brochure right here. Actually, download the brochure right here. The enhanced PPO is the one that I would sell the majority of the time. I don't sell this copay plan because what this does is it gives you doctor copays, but the cost goes up. It's just not worth it. It doesn't justify the cost there. So this is how you can come in and actually quote that. If we establish that this is just too expensive, and you guys, for me, I think that particular plan, the cheapest plan was 217 bucks a month, right? So if they just say I can't do 217 bucks a month. Okay. Our fallback position then is going to be to move to a catastrophic specified disease and accident insurance plan with Med Mutual Protect. Again, they have to qualify. It doesn't cover pre-existing, it doesn't cover preventative, and it's not HSA approved. But we can quote a $5,000 deductible and $1 million maximum benefit on a specified disease and an accident rider. And again, couple it with the HPG to cover the little stuff. Bring in the critical guard and the accident wise to help cover the deductible and other indirect costs, and then quote vision and dental on it. If I go to this particular link, and get logged in here, so you're going to go to the MMP app right here, Med Mutual Protect app. I'm going to start a new quote and application. I'm going to say it came from broker. My zip code is 46540. I live in Elkhart County. Effective date, we're going to make this again January 1st. Birthday 11/10/1976. Still a male. Have I used tobacco products? No. I'm not going to add anybody else here, just working on me. There was something that I missed. Elkhart. There we go. Got to check this box down here and click next. And then the two plans that I'm going to sell are the specified disease and the accident. So the specified disease and the accident. Click next. So this is the specified disease right here. You can see it's a $5,000 deductible and $1 million of benefit. It's $99.80. So I'm going to add that plan in. And then the specified, this is another specified disease, but with much lower amounts. So I don't want to do anything here. I don't want to, this one's got a $25,000. You know, they've got different amounts, but the one that is the most popular is this $5,000 deductible and $1 million of coverage. And then I click over to the accident side. Same thing, $5,000 deductible, $1 million of coverage. I select this plan. Now the two of those combined, I'm at $170 a month. Now technically, if they said I can't afford $170 a month, okay, well, we could pull out the accident insurance and just go down to a single specified disease. Now we're really starting to scale things back, right? We're giving them some tremendous exposure either on the illness side of the equation or on the accident side of the equation. But I think you guys need to get in here and get really familiar because the Med Mutual Protect product is not on Quote Connect and the Allstate product is not on Quote Connect. So you gotta bookmark these links. I'll send this out to you after the call and understand what you're doing with those so that you know how to quote them appropriately. Coming back over here, Once we make a decision on the core medical, so if they're selecting an ACA plan for 2026 with a narrow network of providers and high out-of-pocket maximums, we think you should consider some supplemental insurance products to fill the gaps. I think a critical guard, critical illness or cancer, and accident-wise and a dental-wise max are very appropriate supplemental products. If selecting short-term or the Med Mutual Protect plan, these plans don't cover wellness, doctor's visits, prescriptions, and higher deductibles. We'd recommend you consider a few plans. The Health Protector Guard medical reimbursement plan can be tucked under it, and then the same with the Critical Guard, critical illness or cancer, the accident-wise, and the dental-wise max. So this is kind of the progression that I've put together to talk for my staff to have talking points to work through with our existing clients. I'll share this with you guys, and you guys can use it as you see fit. Obviously, this is a little different type of conversation than what you might be having off of a live transfer, right? With the live transfer, I think you want to use Daniel Smith's script or Justin Wired's script. They're very similar because it's kind of one call close, one fluid, process that you're working through. But if you're, circling back with existing clients or working with people that you've worked with in the past, I think this particular process could be really good. And no matter what you're doing, you've got to establish whether or not they're going to be able to do an ACA plan and then pivot either into short term or into the Med Mutual Protect as kind of your fallback positions. So I'm going to stop talking and just ask what questions you guys have.
Silas, with not knowing the what's going to happen with the subsidy, should we postpone? Like if I got clients that I'm like agent of records for that I got from live transfers and they're ready to do a new plan for 2026. And if we kind of know their income's higher, they're getting a subsidy, but that could go away, but it might not. Should we like say, hey, let's meet in December instead of November?
I wouldn't, but I mean, you can do
Okay.
whatever you'd like. I just feel like I've got too much to get done. We kind of talked about this early in the call
Yeah,
today.
and I missed it a little bit. I missed it
No
early.
problem. And we'll put out the recording on it. My thought is I don't think that I mean the government could change things, right? I mean they absolutely could. But we're still we're not gonna run any appointments on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, so I can do some analysis on things. But we're gonna start meeting with people on Tuesday next week and doing all that we can. And if we need to circle back, we need to circle back. But I still think there's value in having the conversation, educating them on the volatility and what's going on, let them know what their options are, letting them know, what their subsidies would be, barring congressional, changes, and gathering all the information so that if it does, if for some reason you do wait, I just don't think I don't think I'm going to wait. I mean, if they change it, okay. I think if they change midstream, they'll probably extend the enrollment season. But I don't have time to tell everybody, oh yeah, let's just wait till December because we got 15 days then, and we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of people to serve. You know what I mean? So I think we got to take advantage of the time that's there. So I would not recommend a strategy of wait and see because we've only got 6 weeks.
Okay.
And if we need to circle back, if something changes drastically and we need to circle back with clients that we've already, in our mind finished up for the year, it is what it is. But I'm going to wait for that and see what the government does. That's my strategy anyway. So hopefully that's helpful.
Okay.
What other questions do you guys have? Kind of wondering what Maggie's cooking over there.
There's no other questions in the chat,
All right.
except it's Trevor Brown's birthday.
Hey, Trevor, happy birthday, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Big plans today?
Just dinner with my mom's down here from Indiana, down in Florida, so grab dinner with her tonight.
Nice. Well,
Yep.
hope you have a good day, man. Happy birthday.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So last thought, don't let this OEP season smoke past you guys. You got to jump in. If your live transfers aren't turned on Saturday morning, you got to start taking calls and having conversations. And we're going to need the help. The volume I think is going to be incredible this year with live transfers. So get them opened up in the states that you're appointed. Sell what you've got available in your portfolio. I know I've had a few agents that have said, well, I've only got 2 or 3 carriers in this state. So should I start taking leads there? Absolutely. If you have a product to sell what's available today. Sell what's in your portfolio. you can still help a tremendous amount of people, even if you don't have every single carrier in a specific state. Sam, I'm just curious as we wrap things up, how have live transfers been flowing for you? Have you had some success this year? Has it continued for you?
Oh yeah, it's been really good recently, especially with Medicare the past couple weeks. But yeah, as soon as it hits Saturday, I'm taking live transfers for health insurance, so I'm ready for that. I'm
Yeah.
excited. This year should be really good. So lots of opportunity. So
Totally agree. Totally agree. So, and I just tell you guys, like anybody can work hard for 6 weeks, right? Just go after it. And I'll tell you, like calls are going to be coming in 24/7. So if you want to start at 5 o'clock in the morning, we have a lot of agents across the country who take calls as early as 5 o'clock in the morning and take them clear through till midnight at night. Especially if you're working different time zones. So if you want to grind, you can grind over the next 6 weeks. You just got to make the decision what you're going to do and decide to log the hours. So I hope you all have an incredible OEP season. I know you're all here for a reason because you saw an opportunity and you want to be a part of this. I truly believe that. I just don't want you to lose the opportunity or the opportunity to pass you by because you don't jump on the train. And I'll tell you, it's time to start jumping on the train, guys. So it's getting ready to leave the station here. So if you have questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. We're going to continue these ADT sessions. So next Tuesday, I'll probably have more intel and input. We'll probably continue to focus on this. If you guys have questions or case studies you want to bring, that's great. Sandra, you're continuing your sessions with new agents, and I know Tyler is in Michigan. So I'd encourage you guys plug in on those. Do everything you can to engage here because it's go time. So hopefully we crush it together. I'm excited to see where we end up. At the end of the year. But thank you guys for all your hard work. Thanks for listening in today. Get back out to that YouTube channel and brush up a little bit on any of the things you need to brush up on, and we'll do all we can to help you. So appreciate y'all. Have a great week. Good luck as we prep for the craziness that's about to hit. Take care, everybody. See ya.